الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله رب السماوات ورب الأرض رب العالمين، وله الكبرياء في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم. الحمد لله الذي بنعمته تتم الصالحات. ربنا لك الحمد حتى ترضى، ولك الحمد إذا رضيت، ولك الحمد بعد الرضا. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيد الأولين والآخرين محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له الملك الحق المبين، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله وأمين على وحيه. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. And irrespective of the sisters in Islam, all praise and glory and thanks are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We owe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everything we have, وَأَبِيكُمْ بِنِعْمَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ. And we are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all our needs. We need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala every moment in our lives for guidance, for protection, for health, for forgiveness, and even for rizq. فَابْتَغُوا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ رِزْقَ Ibrahim alayhi salam. Our Quran says on behalf of Ibrahim alayhi salam, addressing his people. The verses we just recite, one of them challenges us to be mindful of Allah as is His due. اتقوا الله حق تقاته. Something that you're going to keep trying to do until you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a standard that you can only hope and try to get closer to it. But you should never feel that you're already there. No matter how good your worship is, it still can be improved and perfected. No matter how good your manners are, there still can be improved and perfected. No matter how much you're doing fi sabilillah, you still there is a way to do more, to push yourself to do more. And second verse is reminding us to be always thinking about what we have saved and invested with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلْتَنْظُرْ نَفْسٌ مَا قَدَّمَتْ لِغَدٍ. Check what you have prepared for tomorrow. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. It's a recurring theme in Quran that you are advancing things, you are sending things forward for yourself so that you find them when you move there. وَمَا تُقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ مِنْ خَيْرٍ تَجِدُوهُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. مَا عِنْدَكُمْ يَنْفَدْ وَمَا عِنْدَ اللَّهِ بَاقٍ. Whatever in your hands is going to finish, but whatever you invest with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, actually it will be even multiplied. من الذي يقرض الله قرضا حسنا فيضاعفه له أضعافا كثيرة. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, when we are asked or when we try to define Islam, what Islam is, a lot of time, or most people, they think, one, about rituals, sha'air, prayer, fasting, zakat. So if someone asks us about what is Islam, we start listing these. And fiqh. You cannot drink, you cannot do this haram, that's etc. So sha'air and fiqh, rituals and halal and haram. But what many people don't know, that both of these were revealed later in the life of Rasul. Most of them were revealed in Medina. Second year of Hijrah, fasting. Second year of Hijrah, zakat. 9th year of Hijrah, Hajj. 2 years before Hijrah was prayer in Isra al-Mi'raj, or even less than that. So what was Rasul? If this is Islam, then there was no Islam in Mecca. I mean, we're implicitly saying, when we define Islam this way, we're implicitly saying that as if there was no Islam in Mecca. What was the Rasul calling for in Mecca? And that's what they call the essence of Islam. The essence of Islam is what the Rasul was calling for in his early days, in the beginning. It doesn't mean that sha'air are not important or fiqh. They have very good place and very important. But we're going to talk about, we cannot define Islam about with something that came later. You can't. You cannot define Islam with something that was revealed later. So what was the Rasul ﷺ calling for in Mecca? You can say he was calling for Shahada. He was asking people to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. That's true. But what Shahada meant at that time? And what does it mean today? What Shahada meant? What was in the mind of the Rasul ﷺ and what was in the mind of the companions who accepted Shahada at that time? And what was in the mind of the people who fought Islam? What was in their mind when they hear the Shahada? That's inshallah what we're going to be talking about. The Shahada today, when someone comes and declares become Muslim or convert or revert to Islam, we usually tell them this is what you need to do. You're going to have to start praying. Next Ramadan you need to fast. If you qualify, you need to pay zakat, hajj, and then you start drinking and you don't eat pork, etc. So we are still presenting Islam and defining it as rituals and fiqh. And maybe sometimes we add some cultural elements. I see a lot of people who embrace Islam, they start dressing like people in the Gulf or people in, as if they think that's also part of the package, part of the being, even though it doesn't have to be. Or like people in Pakistan or whatever. Don't have to be. And that's not something that is part of the deen. So clearly, that's not what the Prophet was calling for, and that's not what was in the minds of the Sahaba, the way we understand it today. And that's not what they signed up for when they accepted Shahada and they came to declare it. They were really aware of what they were doing. And that's not why Quraysh fought the Prophet ﷺ and the companions and his community. It's not because they stopped worshipping idols. By the way, there were people before Islam in Mecca who refused to worship idols. Quraysh did not even care about them. So it is not about refusing to worship asnam or idols. Because as I said, there are people before that, before Islam, they refused to worship idols and nobody paid any attention to them. Why? Because they kept it for themselves. They did not act. They kept that belief or whatever for themselves. And so, if all what Rasul ﷺ called for is what we understand Islam today, I can tell you for sure Quraysh did not have fought him. Why? If Rasul ﷺ was calling people only to pray and fast and stop even worshipping idols, doesn't matter for Quraysh. That was not the issue. So what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was calling for and what bothered Quraysh, that's, if you want to find the essence of Islam, you need to answer these questions. Find the answer to this question. What Rasul ﷺ was calling for from day one, and what bothered Quraysh to make them fight Rasul ﷺ so hard. Rasul ﷺ was inviting people to dedicate themselves to Allah. People were living for themselves, and Rasul ﷺ was calling them to dedicate their lives to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to live for Allah and His cause. That's one. So there was a transformation. These people, when they embraced Islam, they changed. And that's what bothered Quraysh. It is that transformation. It's not that they pray and fast, because all of this came later as I mentioned. But it is that transformation. And what this transformation is about, what happened to those companions that made the leaders of Quraysh fight the Prophet ﷺ and his community so hard. Number one, this Shahada, this Tawheed, freed people, liberated them. When you worship none but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you become a free person. Nobody can enslave you. Nobody can enslave you with money. Nobody can enslave you with fear. Because worshipping, meaning fearing nobody other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and knowing that your life and your rizq, everything is dependent on Allah. So that's free people. Liberate them. Make them aware and awake. Because people, before that, they were enslaved. One way or another. They don't have to be slaves. They were confused. They were ignorant. They were lost. And here Islam comes and opens their eyes. Open their eyes to understand themselves, understand this life, understand the purpose of their creation, understand their rights. And all of this bothered the establishment, because that's a challenge to the status quo. So people were liberated, and that's a problem for the establishment. And people became aware and regained their human dignity. Regained their human dignity. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, he was talking about himself, one of the companions, radiallahu anhu. He said, before Islam, he wouldn't dare passing before Dar al-Nadwa. Dar al-Nadwa is the place where the leaders of Quraysh gather. It's like the governing place. He wouldn't dare passing by near. After Islam, when Rasul said, who was willing or volunteers to read Quran in front of these people, he was the first to volunteer. He stood before these people and started reciting Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Quran, Khalaqa al-Insan. These people were so bothered with that and so frustration, and they beat him badly. And even after that, with all the wounds, he said to Rasul, if you want someone to do it again, I'm willing. I will be more than happy to do it again. That's what bothered those people. If Abdullah ibn Mas'ud started praying and stopped worshipping idols and kept it for himself, it was bothering him. But that freedom and that human dignity and that bravery and that courage, that's what bothered these people. And that's why they fought them from the early days, before most of what we call Islam today, most of that was revealed. These people, actually, Al-Yasir, they even died under torture, even though at that time they didn't know how to pray, or they didn't know anything about Ramadan, didn't know anything about what we call Islam today. But it is that commitment and that transformation and that regained freedom and human dignity, that's what bothered the establishment. The other thing that bothered the establishment is this fact of equality between people and justice. That's a big problem. Because in every society there is a privilege. There is people who are, and you come and say all people are equal. There is no distinction except with taqwa. La fadla li'arabiyyin ala ajamiyyin. There is nothing that is inherited that makes you a better person or chosen people. It is what you do. It is your akhlaq, and it is your action and your behavior. It is not anything else. That's also a problem. Because remember that in that society there used to be slaves. And there used to be people, again, who are benefiting from that very unfair and unjust system. That's number one. Number two, part of the transformation, and what bothered the leaders of Quraysh, is the fact that these individuals, they become people who have a mission in life. That's a big transformation. It's a big transformation from being someone who live just very routine, obsolete life, to become someone who has a mission and who has a cause and who has a message. And that message, mission and cause, it's about change. Islam is al-taghyir, Make no mistake about it. Amr bil ma'ruf and nahy anil munkar, that's change. That's changing. Islah is change. You're going to make things better. You're going to work against anything that is bad or anything that is munkar or unjust. So people to dedicate themselves to Allah and His cause and to take the Prophet as their leader. That's what was in their mind when they declared Shahada. It's very, very different from the way we understand it today. When they came to say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah, what they have in mind that from now on, everything I'm dedicating it to Allah. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. I'm going to be whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expects me to be, and I'm going to do whatever Allah wants me to do. And whatever it takes. And that's why these people, when they were asked to fast in the extreme hot weather of the Arabian Peninsula, they did not hesitate. When they were asked to pay zakat, they did not hesitate. When they were asked to stop drinking, which was an integral part of their lives, they did not hesitate. And when they were asked to put their lives on the line, they did not hesitate. Why? Because of that commitment. Because of that commitment, signing on blank check, signing with Allah on a contract and say, just put whatever you want in it. That's the meaning of being a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are two components to the Shahada that bother these people. Dedicating your life to Allah to be free from any method of enslaving people or confusing them. Now you have a reference of what is right and what is wrong. Quran is called as Furqan. Furqan means distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. You cannot be confused, you cannot be distracted, you cannot be kept busy with anything else. Why? Because you have a mission. So it is that change and that element of justice and equality between people that bothered the establishment. And unfortunately, that was lost over the centuries. And we have this version of Islam that reached us minus or after the essence of it was taken away. It's like a car, still intact, but there was no engine. The engine was removed. That's how Islam reached us over the centuries. So what the Rasul ﷺ was calling for is a tawheed that liberates people. Because these people, as I said, they used to be enslaved one way or another. And a mission with maqasid, a mission with ultimate purposes. This triangle that caused all the problems, or that invited that very aggressive reaction. Tawheed, Iman that liberates. Of fear, you will not be slave of your desires, you will not be enslaved, you are not money worshipper, you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so you're completely free. That's a problem. And then turning someone who had a mission and with ultimate purposes, and people who committed themselves and dedicate themselves to change things and to make justice prevail. This is the essence of the deen that was lost over the centuries. Now, why it was lost over the centuries? Partly because of the natural tendency of people toward convenience. People, they don't want commitment. So when they found a convenient version of Islam, they liked it, they took it. Islam that is convenient. So part of it, and that's not applied only to Muslims, applied to almost all religions. All religions, people, they have natural tendency toward convenience, to find a way to avoid fulfilling their duties. and making the commitment. So we know that there are people who say everybody's going to be forgiven, so why bothering? That's something that people invent for convenience. Why? Because they cannot resist. They cannot restrain themselves, so they say, you know what, do whatever you want in this life, but Allah is forgiving. It happened with other religions, it happened with Islam, unfortunately. Or people will say that we're going to spend a few days. So if it's going to come to only a few days of punishment in hellfire, so why bothering? I can do whatever I want in this life, and then take those few days of punishment. All of this are ways to circumvent, to work around the heart of the religion, which is commitment and full commitment and dedication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one, this essence of religion was lost because of that, but also by design. Because the people who were in charge of Muslims all these centuries, the dynasties, the families that have absolute power, they had the same problem with the essence of Islam like the leader of Quraysh. Same problem. They don't want their people to be aware, or to be awakened, or to be free, or to challenge the status quo. So what they did, they fought that part of Islam, and they promoted the other side. You want to do fiqh al-ibadat? We can sponsor you. Go talk about fiqh al-tahara, fiqh al-wudu, fiqh al-ghusl, fiqh al-salat. Right? Doesn't bother us. But don't come close justice. Don't come close anything that can challenge the status. So that's how we reach this point. You're going to have to be aware. Again, there is an essence of religion that was lost over the centuries, and it was lost because of these two reasons. Those people who were in charge, they wanted those individuals and families who were in charge, they wanted their people to continue to think of themselves as subjects, not citizens. Ra'iyya. That anything that the ruler gives you, it's a gift from them. Minha. Not your right. That's how we lived for centuries. We lived for centuries, and there are fuqaha who were issuing fatwa for this. Fuqaha sultan. Issuing fatwa that whatever, though first of all you need to obey them, whatever they ask you to do. And there are people who use a hadith. I'm 100% sure that the Prophet did not say that you need to obey the ruler even if they take your money and even if they beat you, torture you, وَلَوْ جَلَدَ ظَهْرَكَ وَأَخَذَ مَالَكَ. That's no way the Prophet ﷺ would have said this. So total obedience to those who are in charge. Why? Because you are ra'iyya, you are subject. It belongs to them. And you know what? Until now, in some parts of the Muslim world, there are people who are thinking that way. That they think that whatever king or whatever, it's whatever they give them, it's a gift, it's a favor, not your right. So they will be thanking the government or for whatever they give them, not knowing that at the end of the day, that person should be serving you. Public servant, as they call in advanced countries, and it was the case during the time of Khulafa Rashidin, when people were held, the ruler was fully transparent and held accountable and was chosen by the people, not imposing themselves on the people. So it was partly for the same reason that Quraysh fought the true original Islam, those dynasties that have absolute power, and they were dictators. They didn't want people to be aware, or to be awakened, or to be free, or to think of themselves as citizens rather than subjects. And definitely didn't want their people to become mission-driven. I mean, because someone embraces a cause or embraces a mission, becomes so motivated and ready, willing to sacrifice. They don't want that. And until now, that tradition is continuing with existing government, people keeping people busy with different things because they want to distract them from focusing on their rights or from being aware of their rights. So, they did two things to divert Muslims from the original Islam. One is to keep them busy, again, with their lives and sometimes with wars, keeping people busy, but also promoting that version of Islam that will soothe people and make them go to sleep rather than awakening them or making them people who would call for change. And those who did not surrender, they were jailed, tortured, or executed. And history is full of that. History is full, what many of us don't know. Several scholars of Islam, whoever dares to call for the revival of Islam and reform and calling for the original Islam that was preached by Muhammad SAW, that was their destiny. They were jailed, they were tortured, and some of them even were executed. So, question remains, what is the place of sha'air, rituals, and fiqh? Am I saying they are not important? No, they are. They are essential. They came later. Why? They came later for, number one, the sha'air, the rituals that we perform, they are expression of our iman. You feel your love to Allah and your gratitude. You want to express it, so Allah gave us those acts to express our iman. One. Number two, they maintain our iman from deteriorating. So sha'air are essential. They maintain our iman and they strengthen our iman and protect it from deteriorating. Imagine that someone stops praying and then inna salata tanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Their ability to restrain themselves will become much weaker. So they maintain and protect our iman from deterioration. Dua, for example, reminds us that we are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so we're expressing that dependence with dua, with supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah gives you money. You want to express your gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You thank Him for that and you spend it in the way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the place of sha'air, but also they are essential for spiritual development. Tazkiyah in Islam is essential. Tazkiyah, which means self-development, is essential. An important part of tazkiyah is spiritual development. And when it comes to spiritual development, it is done through those sha'air. That's how you keep your spirit vibrant. That's how you nourish your spirit with the Quran and dhikr and salah, etc. So they have a very critical place, but we should never define Islam as those rituals. Asking someone to fulfill the mission of Islam without those rituals, it's like asking a player to perform in a game without the training, without being prepared, or a student to go and do well in an exam without studying. So that's the role of sha'air, is again to protect your iman and maintain it, but also to give you the strength to fulfill your mission. That's why when Muslims abandon their mission, those sha'air become obsolete. We perform them mechanically just because we don't want to be thrown in hellfire. But that's not how they were prescribed. They were prescribed for mission-driven people to support them and strengthen them and to empower them. Where is the place of fiqh? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made things forbidden and haram? That's extremely important. But that's also for people who are on a mission. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forbidden on them anything that will harm them, because anything that is haram is harmful for the individuals and for the society. So anything Allah has forbidden these things because they are harmful. 2, they distract you. 3, they weaken you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants those to fulfill that mission, wants to be strong and focused. Everything that Allah has forbidden, you can find it harmful, and Allah does not want you to cause harm to yourself or to the society. Number 2, distracting. Number 3, weakening. It weakens your ability to fulfill that mission of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. So that's the Islamic paradigm that we need to rediscover. That Islam is essentially Iman that liberates, a mission, that life mission that you embrace with ultimate purposes to do the work of Allah and execute the plan of Allah and of course understand it. And then we have the sha'air and the fiqh were prescribed so that you can do that job properly. But we should never ignore or neglect the essence of Islam and start defining it as short list of do's and don'ts. Wallahi inna ghafur. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوب اليه نعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, I'm sure you are aware and you are probably following what's going on in American university and now Europeans, starting from in France and other European countries. Now this is something to stop and to reflect on, because there are so many lessons we can learn from the growing protests against the genocide in Gaza and especially against the American support with money and weapons to the slaughter that is taking place in Gaza. This is not small. This is probably going to be at the scale of the Vietnam in the 60s or in the 80s against the apartheid in South Africa. What we can learn from here is, number one, the power of alternative media and social media. And that's something that is accessible to everyone. We used to complain a lot of time about media is not fair, media is this, media is that. Now, a lot of people, they don't follow mainstream media. You are the media. It's at your fingertips. Especially if you have a circle of influence, you can be a journalist just with the device that you have. Especially if you're not, of course, if you're not someone who is isolated. By the way, what is going on is not only Muslims, it's a mainstream. And there are a lot of Jewish students and faculty and professors who are active in those protests. Number two is that the genocide has reached a level that the American countries cannot take it anymore. And there are a lot of fair-minded people in this world, in this country and in this world in general. You can see how when they come to know the truth, that unfortunately we knew for forever, but when they came to know, they acted and they cannot take it anymore, that 34,000 people were slaughtered, 10,000 ended rebels, and most of this was done with American taxpayer money and with American weapons. Number three, the importance of public education and public opinion. When we have been saying for months, just tell people around you what's going on, educate people, don't underestimate the importance of public education and public opinion. Again, many of these people, they came to know the tragedy of Palestinians that we knew forever, only recently. And when they knew about it, they acted. They could not, why they knew about it now? Because either we did not share the information that we know, or we didn't do it the right way. We didn't do it in mainstream language that will resonate with the people. Number four, the importance of grassroots. For a long time and until now, most Muslim organizations and leaders, they practice elitist activism, meeting with public officials, taking pictures, etc., and thinking that's going to do the job. There is no alternative to the grassroots work. What the students have done in a couple of days, resonated more than what those meetings happened for years, what those meetings produced for in years. So as long you craft your message in a mainstream way, there are a lot of people, as I said, who are fair-minded, and they will advocate a cause that they come to know about it, and they know that it is a just cause. By the way, the policy on Gaza, American policy on Gaza, it's not only in the universities or among young people. It's very popular among the general public in this country. So keep doing what you can do. Educate people around you. Hopefully, can reach some ceasefire and then end to this genocide and slaughter. And I hope and pray that nobody does anything that is stupid or crazy that will backfire on all of us. Because the way to do things is civic engagement in a peaceful protest and demonstration, using according to the law or within the limits of the law. That's it. There is no other thing that should cross even the mind of anybody, because anything else will only backfire. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم اشف مرضانا وارحم موتانا توفنا وتراض عنا واختم بالصالحات أعمالنا واجعل خير أعمالنا خواتمها وخير أيامنا يوم نلقاك وافتحنا اللهم من نظر وجهك الكريم. ربنا ارحم والدينا كما ربونا صغارا وارحم موتانا جميع موتى المسلمين. لا اله الا انت سبحانك انا كنا من الظالمين. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى اله الصلاه.